Welcome back to the Cutler Report. So, when the Bush tax cuts expire at the end of this year, my next guest, Simon Johnson, will be first in line to wave them goodbye. He has a new controversial book called White House Burning. And here now is Simon Johnson, who, by the way, is MIT Sloan School of Management professor. Also joining us, Dan, senior fellow at the Cato Institute, who says Mr. Johnson couldn't be more wrong. Gentlemen, thank you. Professor Johnson, thank you for coming on. I wish you good luck on the book. What I want to ask is, and you know this is coming, people are worried about the economy and jobs. You're talking about letting all the Bush-era tax cuts expire, so that would raise marginal rates and probably absorb $4 trillion or more out of the economy. How's that going to help growth?
Well, I think, Larry, what you need more than anything else is fiscal consolidation. We've been talking about deficits and the increase in debt for a long time. We haven't done anything about it. When you look at feasible actions that will actually put us on a better fiscal path, the only thing on the horizon is the expiration of the Bush tax cuts. And if you're really worried about the economy hitting an air pocket, then replace them with a temporary payroll tax cut linked to employment relative to population. So as employment goes up, the economy recovers, that tax cut will fade away. We can deal with your $4 trillion problem. No, that's not an issue, Larry. The issue is, are you ready for fiscal consolidation over the next decade or two?
Well, I want to bring Dan in a second. He's going to disagree with you. But I want to say this, Simon. You are consistent. In other words, you're not just saying raise taxes on rich people. You're saying just let the whole thing expire. And I admire that consistency. But I want to ask a second question. I know you're an IMF expert or executive director. Aren't you worried that what you're doing, you're raising tax rates substantially, you're going to finance bigger and bigger government in effect, and that is the European disease, the stagnating European disease?
Well, you're absolutely right that the Europeans went on a crazy spending spree, and you're right that their governments expanded much more than ours. You know, we have 200 years, and this is a big feature of the book, by the way, Larry, 200 years of history of containing government spending and pushing for better oversight. I think that's something we do very well in this country, and absolutely in favor of continuing to do that. At the same time, frankly, the society is aging. Social Security is there as a basic safety net. The average draw from Social Security is $13,000 a year. You're not going to get rich on that. I don't advise anybody to rely on that solely. But if you outlive your assets, if you outlive your family and your family's ability to support you, it's there just in case. There's some very basic things we need for older Americans. Right. What are we going to do about that? Those things cost money, or are you just going to sell a lot of debt to the Chinese and hope they keep lending to you at 2%?
No, I appreciate that. All right, Dan Mitchell, if Simon Johnson got his way and all the Bush tax cuts expire, all the Bush tax cuts, what happens to the economy?
It obviously can't be good news because you're tripling dividend taxes almost between 2012 and 2013, big increases in capital gains tax, big increases in marginal tax rates on investors, entrepreneurs, workers. But I think really the fundamental disagreement that I would have with Simon is we don't have a problem with government debt. We have a problem with government spending. Right. And we had a big explosion in the burden of government spending during the Bush-Obama years. And if we simply let all the tax cuts expire, in effect, we'd be telling the big spenders in Washington that's a permanent victory. We're now going to raise revenue so you can then finance your next new spending binge. And then we do wind up like Greece.
From the Bill Clinton, Newt Gingrich base, I believe spending got down to about 18% of GDP. It's drifting up towards 24, 25% of GDP. Put another 10 points on for state and local government, if I'm not mistaken. Where does that leave the economy?
Well, if you look at the OECD numbers, they say we're close to 40% of GDP. Now, they're a little bit higher than the U.S. government figures, are about 37%. But that's obviously not that far from, say, Germany, which is in the low 40s. And then, of course, the next stage up is countries like France and Greece.
See, Simon, I want to reform the tax code. I want to flatten the rates and get rid of the unnecessary deductions and loopholes. But I don't want to support higher spending because I want us to outgrow Europe.
Well, look, Larry, I think you're absolutely right to push for tax reform, and the tax expenditures are a big problem. People on the left and the right should be agreeing on that one. But in regard to spending is out of control, I think I heard Dan just now criticize Medicare Part D, which is a massive unfunded mandate created by the Bush administration, and he's absolutely right. That was an unconscionable additional entitlement that was created and really bamboozling people with regard to pretending it doesn't cost money. But here's the point about spending. Here's the point about spending, Larry. Hold on one second. Aging of society, you've got to factor that into your projections on the Social Security.
Much better do the Ryan reforms on Medicare and Medicaid.
I just want to flatten tax rates, and I want to limit spending big time. Gentlemen, thank you. Simon Johnson, it's great to see you. Thank you. Dan Mitchell, as always, that'll be all for tonight's show. Thanks for watching.